Opal is an animated short by Jack Stauber, which premiered on Adult Swim Halloween this year, and the entire thing is now available on their YouTube channel. It's only 12 minutes long, and you should definitely watch it if you haven't, because honestly, Opal is one of the most creative things I've seen in a long time. It probably lies in the horror/musical genre, and as for animation, it's a collage of both claymation, CGI, live action, and even a bit of stop motion done with paper cutouts, South Park style. If you don't know who Jack Stauber is, he's a singer, songwriter, and animator from Pennsylvania. I would be pretty surprised if you haven't heard this song from him. As much as I hate TikTok, if I was forced to say any positives about the app, I would say I'm really happy that Jack Stauber's music is reaching more people. And maybe some of those people will look more into his catalog of music, and maybe they'll find some music they wouldn't listen to otherwise. He has a Spotify that he seems to have stopped focusing on to pursue a second Spotify account, called Jack Stauber's Micropop. The Micropop account is more focused on singles and short songs, most of which he's made videos and animations for, some of which were also made for Adult Swim. After watching his newest creative endeavor, Opal, I've decided that it's something well worth your time, and it deserves a proper analysis which I haven't seen on the internet so far. So I thought I would do it. I was gonna write a huge multi-paragraph thing on IMDb or Letterboxd or something, but I don't think anyone wants to read that, including my 3 loyal Letterboxd followers, and I certainly don't want to write that. So I decided Opal was worthy of interrupting my series of Dark Souls reviews. If you haven't seen it, then maybe a decent comparison would be it's a bit like Coraline, except it's more abstract and depressing. I'm guessing what I just said isn't enough to convince you to watch it, so I'm going to do a pretty in-depth summary of the plot, which will be sectioned off by timecodes I'll put in the YouTube video soon after I release it. Although the summary will have full spoilers, so this is your last chance to go watch the short unspoiled. Also, there's a great twist at the end that you should really see before you continue watching this video. Opal begins with a 37-second montage of objects that are pretty much meaningless until you've seen the entire short. You then see a title as you exit a dark room in a tall house and swoop down into a bright, much shorter, friendly-looking house. You then get a close-up on a cheeseburger. I promise I'm not going to spend any time pointing out trivial details. Hilariously, this is actually an important thing to note. You then see our protagonist, Opal. She wakes up in the kitchen, and she sees her family at the other side of the kitchen table. They then start to sing to her. We see you, Opal, your troubles are miles away. And then each family member greets her. And then this happens. Each family member individually cheers her on, and then the focus is placed on a window showing the tall, dark house.
Don't mind the house across the street, Opal. It's not where your attention ought to be, Opal.
Her parents then tell her that it's time to go to bed. Opal then sneaks out of her room and looks at the other house through her kitchen window. She stares at the window at the top of the house as a sort of ghostly effect exits it. Opal climbs out of her window and walks to the other house in the dark. A bright light scares her, and she quickly runs into the dark house. Once inside, you can hear the television on, and Opal sees a large, bald man breathing heavily and watching the TV, which, by the way, is just static. Opal reaches for the doorknob, but ends up stepping on an empty wrapper. The old man, who looks like something out of Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, asks Opal for his cigarettes. It's clear that this man is bald, based on his glasses and the fact that he mistaked Opal for someone named Claire. And now it makes a little more sense why the television was staticky. Opal continues to reach for the doorknob, but the old man again asks for his cigarettes, now accusing her of hiding them from him. Then, the old man begins to sing. The song is done with a sort of television-looking CGI, TV static, and the channel changes as a transition for every shot. The song is mostly just the old man asking,
"And won't you tell me, my does it sound so easy to breathe on TV?"
I'm honestly kind of surprised how good this song sounds, because I'm pretty sure the old man's voice is just Jack's voice with a bit of pitch shifting to sound lower. Or maybe that's why it sounds so good. And once it's over, the old man comments on Opal smelling weird, presumably because she's not Claire. He then concludes that this girl isn't Claire, and he yells for her to get out of his house. He falls out of his chair, and Opal runs upstairs. Opal then sees a door, which we can assume is either the room with the window she saw, or it leads to that room because we see the same ghostly effect escape from the gaps around the door. She also has the window reflecting in her eyes. As she's walking to the door, a man in the room to the left of her shouts,
Hey, just gonna walk by without saying hello?
Just like the old man, this younger man assumes that it's Claire because he cannot see her face. His vision is obscured by the mirrors that surround him. As symbolized by the mirrors, this character is extremely narcissistic, specifically in relation to his appearance. His attitude is cheerful but erratic. His voice regularly shifts pitch during their conversation and in his song. Since he's extremely narcissistic and almost for sure going insane in this chamber of mirrors, all he wants to do is talk to her about the way he looks and his skin and so on, and why he focuses on these things.
You wanna know I get so worked up, I'll just tell you.
They turned me down, now I live my nightmare. Gotta be seen by someone out there. And now I sit here in reflection chamber, fixing myself so that all can savor. Follow me, I'm on the brink of easy life in the gym. Life is a cold room away, always a wonderful.
In his song, he explains that he's surrounded himself with all these mirrors because he was turned down. What exactly this means isn't clear, but what is clear is that it was based on his appearance, and he's become so much more insecure about his appearance because of this. He believes that as he continues to adjust and fix his appearance, he will eventually gain some sort of visual epiphany, so he can leave this room and be adored by everyone. The song ends and this character continues to talk to Opal. This is when Opal hears the stairs creak as the blind man tries to find her. Once he gets to the top of the stairs, he falls down and yells. Opal runs away, and the other man is upset that she's no longer listening to him. She goes through the door that she was originally walking towards, and she sees a set of stairs at the other side of this messy room. From underneath the mess and sheets, a hand grabs her leg and Opal trips. The woman who grabbed her leg asks who she is since she can't see the girl well, probably because the woman is drunk. She again confuses Opal for Claire, and continuously rambles in confusion. She compares herself to the girl and sings a song about the two of them.
Mama needs a little girl to land on. Mama needs a little girl to fall in her arms.
She ends the song by having a sort of hallucination or flashback, and then she continues to ramble. She compares herself to the girl again, this time saying that Opal is just as powerless as she is. She looks like she's about to grab her or something, but Opal runs up the stairs. Opal finally gets to the attic, the room she's been trying to reach this entire time, but there's no reveal. The room is empty. The actual reveal is what resides outside the window. The same window we see reflect on her eyes multiple times throughout the short. The same window we saw in the title sequence. The same window we saw zoomed in on at the start. The same window we saw that ghostly effect come out of. Outside the window, she doesn't see her house. But instead, where her house was, she sees a billboard. The billboard is an advertisement for Opal's Burgers. The family at the beginning is imaginary. Opal isn't the girl's name. Her real name is Claire, and the three characters in the house are her real mother, father, and grandfather, and they're banging on the door she blocked with a chair. She imagines herself as her grandfather's eyes, her father's reflection, and her mother's pills. She shrieks and curls up next to the window as close as possible to her imaginary family, and with her back turned to her real family. She wakes up in the kitchen of her billboard family, and you get to hear their song from the beginning be revised.
Troubles are miles away. We see you, Opal, and in our eyes.
At this point, I was really hoping that the billboard was some sort of fake twist, and all this time, it was just a bad dream or something. That would make a lot of sense because at the beginning, she went to bed right before she snuck out to go to the other house. And this is how stories are supposed to end. Opal will learn to listen to her family and not sneak out of their house and explore alone. But we see that her billboard family is in her mind as we dolly out of her yarn head. We continue to zoom out and see her real family banging on the door, and we continue further as we get to escape the house while Opal cannot. At this point, her only method of escape is through her delusions. I'm genuinely sorry for making videos about a bunch of depressing stuff. I mean my previous movie review was a movie about a guy who kills himself at the end, and I'm working on a video about how Dark Souls is an allegory for death and depression. So yeah, hey, I don't make this stuff. It just so happens that talented people create depressing stuff, and people who aren't talented make movies about happy things. Hey, at least Opal is interesting. At least Opal is worth discussion. And why don't we continue there? Opal is a story about a young girl with a family consisting of 3 neglectful parental figures. The cause for each family member's neglectful nature is unique for each family member, and there's a huge emphasis on sight, or the idea that none of her family members really see Claire. You can see eyes in each one of their 3 songs. The grandfather's blind eyes, the reflection of her father's eyes, and a hallucination of eyes on her mother's sheets, which fade away as she sings. The twist at the end works so well because it's believable that each member of the family could mistake Claire for someone else. All 3 characters have their vision obstructed. Her grandfather is blind, her father has surrounded himself with mirrors, and her mother is so intoxicated that she can barely recognize her own daughter. Unlike the real family, Claire's imaginary family sings about how they do see her.
We see you, Opal, and in our eyes you'll stay.
Each family member's vision is distorted, physically, but also metaphorically. Each song explains to the audience how each one of these 3 characters ignores their problems and blames society while they should blame themselves. The grandpa asks his daughter to bring him cigarettes, despite the fact that he coughs up blood and wonders why it's so easy for people to breathe on TV. The father wants to be adored by society for his beauty, but he doesn't even have the courage to leave his own chamber of mirrors to be seen by anyone, fearing that he'll be ridiculed for his appearance. The fear of the outside world is what caused him to surround himself with mirrors and nitpick his appearance until he's perfect. But instead, by constantly trying to fix his skin, he tears it. While getting to look at himself all day is comforting in a sort of narcissistic way, he's also so insecure that he's not willing to show his real face from behind the mirrors. His face in the mirror is all we see of him until the ending montage. The 2 faces don't match. This makes me believe that this horrific face is what the character actually looks like, and the face we see in the mirrors is a delusional, altered appearance created by the ego of this character. The mother views herself as a victim, trapped in a virtuous cycle by her adversaries, but in reality, she sits in bed all day, getting drunk and high. In her song, she makes it clear that she relies on her daughter emotionally, instead of the other way around.
Mama needs a little girl to land on.
She lives through her daughter. You can even see the same dress her mother's wearing on Claire's bed. She projects onto her daughter while she barely recognizes her. If you re-watch this scene, knowing that Claire is Opal, you realize that it makes just as little sense for her to project these things on a little girl that she's never met before. She gives her daughter no independence or security. She sees the world around her as vicious, but she abuses her daughter. None of these 3 characters see that they are the sources of their own problems. They blame everyone else as they continue killing themselves. While they're all neglectful and delusional, they're also sort of empathetic in a way. The grandpa is blind, coughing up blood, and can barely walk without falling over, so he listens to television all day. The father was ridiculed for being ugly, so he hides himself behind a wall of mirrors. And the mother is plagued by the memory of some incident. It's not outright said, but the incident was probably caused by her, and she's still having PTSD from it. If it was caused by her, she probably also feels a tremendous amount of guilt. None of the characters are willing to fix their problems, because that would be admitting that they're the ones responsible for their own mistakes. Claire is more similar to her family than you may think, but unlike Claire's family, her problems aren't self-inflicted, and she doesn't have any control over them. She attempts to escape from her neglectful family by creating delusions of a family who can see her. Based on their dialogue, you can get an understanding of what Claire wants from each family member.
Go on, you can do it.
Here, Opal's mother gives her independence and doesn't project onto her.
Atta girl.
Her father compliments her, while in reality her father only compliments himself, and instead insults others to boost his own ego.
Look at me.
They're going to be kicking themselves. I actually look really good in that. Glad I don't have your ankles though. Nothing against them. Never mind. Sorry, my brain.
And the only thing her grandfather says in her fantasy is, as if that's all she wants to hear from the guy, because in reality he doesn't even recognize her, or express any joy in acknowledging who she is. There are so many hints to this family being fake. The billboard lights are above the family as they sing to Claire. The father starts out frozen, in the same position as he is on the billboard. Claire wakes up in the kitchen, meaning she's entered some sort of dream of this family. And the lights above the billboard turn off as she leaves the house and goes back to reality. The light at the beginning of the short that scares her into running into the house is really the billboard, and the light is the lights at the top illuminating it. And the lights turn on at this time because it's dark. She runs away from this because she's trying not to confront the reality of her situation, like she does at the end. The main thing that differentiates Claire from her family is that she eventually does confront the fact that her delusions are just that. Delusions. She understands her problems and their sources, and she understands her family's problems too. She can see it all clearly. The word for clear in French is clair, but that's not the only significance her names have. Opal is the name of a gemstone. I actually own one, so I can show you what they look like. They're a milky white color, and they're rarely cut like most gemstones. They're usually just smoothed out into a sphere shape, like an eye. Now, you can see how the name of the short also ties into the motif of sight. Claire's eyes are just like Opal's. They're extremely reflective. When she's going to her room, her eyes reflect the window, and when she's with her imaginary parents, she reflects the 4 lights on the billboard. The montage at the end is a representation of what Claire means to each member of her family. Claire acts as her grandpa's eyes, getting his cigarettes for him. She acts as her father's reflection, as she's a way for him to reflect upon himself. He uses her as someone to talk to, as a way to complement his appearance, just like his mirrors. And her mother relies on her daughter emotionally, and as a way to comfort her. just like the pills that she abuses. Claire is making her grandfather's lungs, her father's ego, and her mother's emotional problems worse by doing these things. She wants to help them, but she shrieks at the idea that she has become the very things that made her family delusional, troubled, and shells of what they once were. Claire deserves to be neglectful towards her family, and it may be better for them if she does so. But she wants to help fix her family's problems by doing things such as hiding her father's cigarettes. But it's impossible for her to fix their issues, because they cannot come to grips with the fact that the only person destroying their lives is themselves. That's why they try to break down the door to her room at the end, since Claire tries to help them, but by doing so, she's only pointing all their issues at them. Their delusions rub off on Claire. She's the only one who can see her problems clearly, but she also is the only one who can't improve her situation. So instead, she decides that she would rather pretend to be the girl on the billboard outside her bedroom window. I understand that Opal is definitely not for everyone. It's weird, creepy, upsetting, depressing, and abstract. The short doesn't hold your hand either. I would be lying if I said I understood everything that was happening on my first viewing. But I don't enjoy it because it's confusing. I watch it multiple times to get a better understanding of what's happening because I enjoyed it so much. There's so much detail and creativity, and I think part of the reason why is because of the animation style. Stop motion is so time consuming that you're bound to add all sorts of details just to make the process more interesting for the animators. I've also just always liked stop motion in general, and the way the characters' heads are claymation but their bodies are live action is a cool way to make the short stand out. The unique and great songs and animation make Opal so entertaining. The short is only 12 minutes long, but all 4 main characters have more depth than most major characters in full-length animated movies. I also love the fact that the songs are crucial to understanding the characters, their history, and their motivations. The message about how people like Claire's family have to take responsibility, both for Claire's sake and their own sake, is great. I've never seen this idea explored much, and I definitely haven't seen this message presented in this way. I definitely think Opal is well worth people's time. Jack Stauber is infinitely creative. Check out his music on both Spotify accounts, and on his YouTube channel, and on Adult Swim, and in Opal. It's all great. I have a feeling that Jack's stuff is on the verge of exploding. That's not to say the stuff isn't already in the public eye, but I think this is only the beginning. Hopefully he'll work on some bigger projects with larger budgets and longer run times, because personally I cannot get enough of this guy's work, and I hope to see a lot more of it in the future. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, then give it a like. If you want to see more stuff like this, then consider subscribing, and click the bell for notifications. I'm still working on my Dark Souls video, and it should be the next video that comes out. I just wanted to make this as soon as possible because Opal just came out recently. If you want to see more of my content, or editing, I edited a video for Superchar IV, and I'll put an annotation or link or something. Thank you, I hope to see you soon. Bye.